here are 23 frugal living tips from the Great Depression. 1. Barter. During the Great Depression, people often turned to bartering as a way to cope with tough times, especially when money was scarce. They would exchange their own goods for things they needed from others. For instance, if they grew their own food and raised animals, they might barter these for items like kerosene for their lanterns and other necessities that they lacked but required. 2. Buy whole chicken. Nowadays, it's simple to go to the store and get boneless chicken breasts all ready to cook. It might seem easy, but it's not the best way to save money and reduce waste. Instead, try buying a whole chicken or a pre-roasted one. This way, you get dinner for today, leftovers for lunch tomorrow, think about cold lunch ideas, and bones to make stock. Surprisingly, a whole chicken costs the same or even less than pre-cut boneless chicken. Plus, you get 3 meals instead of just 1. 3. Preserve your garden produce. Don't let your produce go to waste. Learn how to preserve it. Use mason jars to learn canning, a method of preserving foods. Other ways to preserve food include drying, dehydrating, fermenting, curing, or freezing. 4. Ignore fads. Our grandparents were smart. They didn't follow every new trend that made them spend money unnecessarily. Trends come and go, and when they're gone, all you're left with is a bunch of stuff you don't need and less money in your bank account. Remember the Beanie Baby craze? Think before you spend your money. Ask yourself if you're buying something just because everyone else is, or if it's something you'll actually use, love, and value for a long time. 5. Replace meat with cheaper options. People during the Great Depression survived by being resourceful, especially when it came to replacing expensive meat with more affordable alternatives. They created meatless meals using items like pasta, potatoes, or beans. Cheaper options like pancakes were also common. When they did include meat in their meals, they stretched it to make it last longer. 6. Save your food scraps. Even if you cut down on waste a lot, you might still have to throw some things away. But don't just throw out food scraps, like peels from vegetables and fruits. For instance, you can use vegetable scraps, such as onion tops, to add flavor to homemade stock. You can candy fruit peels like those from oranges and lemons. Also, toss veggie scraps into your compost pile, which you can later use for your home garden. 7. Rent out a room in your house. If you have an extra room in your house, consider renting it out to earn extra money. It's a great way to make some additional income on the side. If you have the chance to take in lodgers, go for it to boost your finances. 8. Consider cheap but fun entertainment. In the Great Depression, people enjoyed affordable entertainment like dance halls, where they could have fun for hours without spending much. The radio was another source of entertainment, offering soap operas, sermons, and mysteries. Today, you can have a movie marathon as an alternative to going out. There are many inexpensive entertainment options, so you don't have to spend a lot on malls or amusement parks. Your choices are limitless. 9. Fix items you still can. During that era, people made a point to fix things rather than buying new ones, as money was scarce. They would mend their clothes at home and avoid purchasing items they could still use. If something broke, they tried to fix it instead of discarding it. To save money, they used household items to repair their belongings and avoided unnecessary spending. 10. Grow your food. If you have a backyard, consider growing your own food. Even a small garden is essential. It helps you produce more food on your property and saves money on grocery store purchases. Don't worry if you lack experience. Tutorials and guidebooks can teach you how to grow herbs and spices. Easy-to-plant options include lettuce, cucumbers, and tomatoes. 11. Bake your bread. Our grandparents baked their own bread out of necessity since they didn't have many options. Baking was crucial to prevent their families from going hungry. Now, baking is becoming popular in our homes again. Try baking your own bread and save money in the process. 12. Recycle. Another way to live frugally and save money is through recycling. Instead of throwing items away, find other purposes for them. For instance, repurpose old plastic bottles as containers. Use flour and feed sacks to make clothing. And turn old clothing scraps into new rags or mops. Get creative with old newspapers and magazines for arts and crafts, and use wood scraps to make wooden toys for your kids. During the Great Depression, people made the most of what they had by recycling, turning seemingly useless items into something useful. You can do the same and learn to live frugally, just like our grandparents. 13. Don't waste food. Avoid wasting anything. It's a valuable frugal lesson from the people who lived through the Great Depression. They made sure to use every part of items, like utilizing the whole chicken for different meals. Bones and feet were put to use in soups, and some even found a purpose for feathers in making feather bedding. The experiences from the Great Depression taught them to make the most out of everything to ensure survival. 14. Prepare your meals and cook from scratch. Prepackaged and ready-made foods can be pricey. Instead of buying them, consider preparing your own meals. There are plenty of affordable dishes you can cook at home to save money and avoid eating out. Plus, restaurant and fast food options are often unhealthy. By learning to cook from scratch, you not only save money, but also make healthier choices for yourself. 15. Learn to sew. You don't have to be a sewing expert to make clothes and rags. During the Great Depression, people crafted their clothes even without a sewing machine. They creatively reused old clothing fabric to create new garments. Additionally, they skillfully sewed flour and feed sacks, transforming them into stylish clothing for themselves and their children. 16. Layer clothing to stay warm. Save on resources while sleeping. Rather than using the heater, layer your clothing to stay warm. In the past, people also used feather beds made from fowl feathers for a cozy night's sleep. 17. Live within your means. Avoid putting your purchases on credit. Use cash instead. Stay within your budget to prevent overspending. Tracking your spending helps you understand your financial situation and live within your means. Stick to your budget and resist non-essential purchases. Follow this tip from the Great Depression to live frugally. 18. Do things yourself. During the Great Depression, frugal individuals became adept at making or crafting the things they wanted or needed instead of buying them. This was especially impressive since the internet wasn't available during that time. If possible, try doing things yourself and refrain from purchasing or hiring professionals. For example, consider making your own clothing, baking your bread, and cooking your meals. 19. Use alternative transportation. In that era, people opted for alternative transportation methods to conserve gas. Bicycling and walking were among the most popular modes of travel during that period. They also limited their use of cars, only driving when absolutely necessary. 20. Cut your own hair. The bowl cut was the go-to haircut during that era because it was simple to learn. Even those without any experience in cutting hair could pick it up. In an effort to save every penny, people had to acquire even the skill of cutting hair. All you need are shears, clippers, and a fine-toothed comb. 21. Reuse scraps. People in the 1930s displayed creativity by repurposing leftover food. Bacon grease, for example, could be used for stir-frying and making pie crusts. Herb and vegetable scraps were transformed into stocks, adding flavor to various dishes, even pies. Bones were utilized to make nourishing bone broth. 22. Prioritize where to spend your money. Sharpen your budgeting skills and create a written budget that prioritizes essentials like food and shelter. After addressing these basics, you can then think about saving and investing. 23. Forage. People during the Great Depression foraged for food to feed their families. Surprisingly, even rabbits and squirrels were consumed during this era. Additionally, dandelions were transformed into meals. However, caution is necessary, as some foods are inedible. Familiarize yourself with edible plants and use a guidebook to ensure safety. While these frugal tips from the Great Depression are still effective in today's era, my grandma has even more money-saving tips, which she has revealed in this video right here.